She's been in office since 1991. 15 terms. Maxine Waters, the second ranking Democrat after Nancy Pelosi. She's 82 years old. 30 years in Congress. And like she was in the State Assembly of California for like 100 years before that, since like 1976, before half of you were born, or maybe a lot of you. Maxine Waters is being challenged by a conservative, black, young Republican. And here's the catch. Maxine Waters lives in a It's Rob Nelson Live.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there.
My name's Rob Nelson. I used to have a talk show on Fox, a show on Fox News. But news in America is so produced. I don't care if you think it's left, right, center, fake.
You passed tougher legislation to deal with the paparazzi after what happened with you and your family.
I think it's very important that we focus on rebuilding.
All right, everybody, welcome to the show. I'm here. I got Joe Collins. Joe, welcome to my show. Like I said, come on up with me, Joe. Join me on screen. There you are. Joe, welcome to the show. Let me just set this up real quick again. So Maxine Waters is one of the oldest members of Congress. I mean, she's oldest, like she's 82 old, and she's oldest like 30 years long old. And she, to me, is the ultimate of the incumbent. She has been there forever. She can't possibly be very in touch with her community, even if she lived in it. She's been around so long. She's the epitome in my mind. And I'm very centrist, everybody. You know that. I'm an independent. You know, my conservative friend Sam liberal, my liberal friend Sam conservative. But the truth is, Maxine Waters is everything about institutionalized, stay in office forever politics that I hate. She is the incumbent who has been an incumbent and will be an incumbent till she is in her grave. Joe Collins is something different on so many levels. Joe, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Rob. I appreciate it.
So let's start with the obvious, Joe. People look at you and they see a black guy, and the first thing they're going to assume is, because that's what people do, he's a Democrat. He's a Democrat. He's an ultra liberal.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on that one. When people see Joe Collins, the first thing they say is, wow, you're very handsome. I like the dimples.
Oh, okay.
And then they say, are you a Democrat?
All right, I'll go there, Joe. You're a good-looking guy. Sean Hannity said to me once, if you were gay, Rob, I'd sleep with you. You know?
Oh, Lord.
So, not that he's gay or I'm gay. Not that there'd be anything wrong if we were. But no, yes. Okay, they see a good-looking guy. But you know what I mean? People make the assumption that because you are a black candidate, you are probably a Democrat.
You know, I used to think that, but then one thing that I noticed is I'm too alpha to be a Democrat. I haven't had anyone assume that I was a Democrat for a very long time. So, you know, people know I'm a Republican. You can tell by my demeanor. You can tell by how confident I am, how confident when I walk, and how confident I am when I talk. And I haven't had too many people say that you're a Democrat.
So what do you mean by that? You like Democrats are like, you mean like Democrats walk like with their shoulders down, like victim, I'm afraid?
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but they're not confident in their walk. They're not confident in their talk, you know, and they tend to follow instead of lead. And when you see me, you know, I don't follow anyone, you know, even as a Republican with President Trump, who's an alpha male, as a leader of the Republican Party, I'm still an independent free thinker. I don't even base my whole entire campaign around President Trump. I'm alpha in myself, so people automatically know.
So I want to talk about you. I want to start early. I want to just show a minute and a half of your campaign ad. We don't, because it's 4 minutes long, these YouTube videos. So just to set it up, guys, Joe did a video, and I love it. It's like one of my favorite political videos of the year. Joe goes out on the street and does it real. Got rid of all the campaign consultants who tell you to do things a certain way. And was like, I'm just going to tell people the truth. And he goes out, and I'll let the video tell itself. We're going to play only a minute and a half of it. You should go to YouTube and watch it with like the million other people who've watched it. But Bruce, just put it on. I'll just say when to stop it, because otherwise it'll just keep playing.
I'm Joe Collins. I'm running for Congress against Maxine Waters. Do you know where I am right now? Maxine Waters' $6 million mansion. Do you know where I'm not right now? Maxine Waters district. Yep, that's right. Maxine does not live in her district, but I do. I was born right here in South LA. in a place Maxine refuses to live. Maxine Waters does not drink our water, she does not breathe our air, and while she sits here in her mansion, our district is in ruins. Let me show you. This is South LA. I was born here. I grew up on 104th and Normandy. Maxine Waters has been in office for 44 years. Has anything got better around here? I can tell you firsthand that it hasn't. I survived a drive-by shooting in this house when I was a child. Gangs, drugs, violence, that was my upbringing. And where was Maxine Waters? Nowhere to be found. I survived Maxine's district. Graduated high school, went on to join the U.S. Navy. I fought for this country. But while I was fighting for this country, Maxine Waters could not be bothered to fight for her own district here in America. And when I returned from war, I came back to my community as a war zone. And why doesn't Maxine Waters want to live in her own district? Because she doesn't want to suffer the consequences of her.
Hey, Joe, that was great. So let's take a second. I want to get to your politics and all that, but I want to just start because the human is what matters to me. And I think people really do vote. If they're not locked into their party affiliation and just going to hit the button for R or D, I think they vote for the person. Let's use character in the biggest sense of the word. You don't have to be a nice person for someone to like you, but your character defines why you're going to get there, whether, whatever those qualities are. Who is Joe Collins? I mean, you're that guy. You grew up in that neighborhood. You're not a transplant, right? I mean, someone shot at you in your house. Talk about it for a second about, being a kid there.
Yeah, growing up in South LA was rough. We called it South Central then. And gang violence and drive-by shootings, listening to helicopters, going to sleep to the sound of the helicopters in the sky was normal for us. It wasn't until after our house was shot up in a drive-by and we actually moved to Texas where I finished high school that I noticed that, what we were going through there was not normal at all. Then I joined the military, which further showed me that what we were going through was not normal. And then to come back after 13 and a half years of service to the military to see the community in the same condition that it was in, it was actually worse because we got an influx of homelessness now. Even with me trying to engage with my opponent to get my VA benefits because we have one of the worst broken VA systems in America, not even receiving a response, further fuel my ambition to run against her in this election because I honestly say this and I honestly believe it. Our people deserve better.
Mm-hmm. What's one of the drive-by shooting? I mean, I don't think people necessarily realize because people will say, I grew up in a bad community, whatever. I mean, it must have been terrifying at times as a kid, right? I worked in some inner city communities. You wonder, am I going to make it? Am I going to grow up?
No, I never worried about that. It was always in the back of my mind, okay, so what was going to happen today? Going to school and getting in fights, coming home from school, catching the bus and getting in fights and, the gangs and the drive-by shootings. It was kind of normal. Only thing that we knew was, eventually something bad is going to happen to everybody who lives in South LA because that was just our culture. That was our norm. And it wasn't until we got out of Los Angeles that I realized that you can live past 25 as a young Black man from South Central Los Angeles and be very productive and successful.
Mm-hmm. Did you grew up, Maxine Waters was in Congress before you were born, right?
She was in Congress in 91. I was born in 85. Yeah, she was in a state assembly before I was born.
She was in Congress when you were a little kid.
She was, yes.
Did you ever see her? Did you ever interact with her? Was she in the community a lot even back then? Did she at one point in time actually invest her feet in the place she represents?
In the 90s, Maxine Waters used to always be around, but it was still the same yelling. It was still the same yelling, no justice, no peace. We fighting for Black people, blah, blah, blah. And when it came to action, it wasn't that much action. It was just a bunch of, like Charlie Brown and his mom always speaks, but you can never hear anything that she's saying. It's like, wah, 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 wah. Yeah, like you knew she was there, but she wasn't saying anything effective.
And so before we're done here, and I know you don't have a lot of time, we'll get back. I'll let you make the case against, for you against Maxine. But I think the best case against Maxine for you is, you talking about what's actually real about the situation in our country. And I think one of the things I've noticed is we still have a movement of people who complain. I'm not saying there isn't racial injustice or systemic injustices. I'm doing a town hall in Jacksonville that's all about that. I'm bringing Black activists, conservatives, liberals, the police force, everyone together. But the issue becomes people complain, especially people in Washington, will do a lot of talking about the problems in the Black community and the need to fix the Black community and how bad it is and we need justice. And nothing changes. And they always say, well, nothing changed. It's not my fault. Nothing changed. And I'm always like, well, then maybe you shouldn't be in office if your answer is going to be, I can't change it.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct. And that was like one of the messages that we've been preaching down here. These people be like, well, Maxine Waters is fighting for us. She's been fighting for us. And I'm like, well, she's been in office for 44 years, which means she's been fighting for 44 years. She hasn't even came close, apparently, to winning this fight. So when is it time for her to wrap it up? I mean, look at Floyd Mayweather. He's 50-0. He always wins. He can come out of retirement, come back to boxing and win. Maxine Waters is 82 years old. She's been fighting for 44 years and hasn't won yet. She needs to wrap it up. Her career is done. It's over.
Right. And, you know, I put in my Instagram post, I put for you, Joe, is this the Rocky of South LA? But because it's funny you say that, but I just had fun with that little idea that you're the Rocky. But the idea that came to me was, you know, that like, because Rocky fights the battle, you know, in the original one against the guy he's supposed to lose to. And I feel like people who don't move on, like there's no business in America where you could stay for 44 years and simply say, look, it just hasn't happened yet. The market's not right. The product isn't right. It's the team. It's the management. It's the other competition, whatever it would be. The shareholders would be like, sorry, you've had 4 decades to fix this company. We're replacing you. It will last, you know, they do it in 5 years. But in Washington, we let you have the excuse of decade after decade saying it's not my fault because the other people won't let me make change. So how do you respond to that? Because someone would come in and be like, well, you know, it's not, you know, you can't beat the system. It's too big. You won't make anything happen because you're going to go in and try to fix South LA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's absolutely doable too. And a lot of people ask that question, how can you do it? I'm like, dude, you go to work and you do what you're supposed to do. I don't have to pander because I don't have a base of people who I'm trying to please. I don't have a Black base, a white base, a Latino base, or Asian base. I'm like a everybody base. And so with me, it's like a collaborative effort. Let's find out what works best for our community and let's make it happen. It shouldn't take an act of God in order to bring economic development or bring jobs back to our community. I mean, President Trump, if he doesn't like something, he want to do something, executive order. And you can be mad all you want to, but you should have worked with the president when he wanted to make things happen. And right now we have so many aged politicians. Everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to be the top dog that they forget about the American people.
Right. So what in a nutshell do you think could happen? And I want to get to talking a little bit about what's happening in California right now. But when you get to Congress, which I'm hoping you do, and I've said I'm not a journalist. I can pick sides on this. I want people like you in office. And I'm not saying because you're a Republican, you'd be a Democrat, wouldn't matter to me. I want people in office who are going in not to be career politicians and stay for 50 years, but to make change. But someone might argue, what kind of real change can you actually make that would help? I mean, South LA is like so many communities in America or impoverished communities. Like nothing has changed except to get worse.
Yeah. One thing that I can do is we can railroad all the politicians out of office who have done nothing and proven to do nothing. And also something that I'm doing right now is training young people to get involved in politics, regardless of your political party preference. That right there is a game changer. Teaching young people to get into office is an absolute game changer. And then we'll introduce term limits so we can ensure that we have no more career politicians.
I like that. And you'd commit, Joe, to not serving. What would you commit to if you were doing term limits? 4 years? I
would commit to 8. I give you a solid 8 and I keep it moving.
All right. So I'm actually in favor of 4. I want term limits for 4 because I do. I want 4. Listen, I wrote a book about all this. I want 4-year term limits. I want a term limit for the Supreme Court, 10 years on the court. Like you're done after 10. Nobody can remove you for 10 years, but you're appointed for 10 years. And then, you know, you don't get to live to 100 on the court and hold on so you don't die because you don't want the other side to replace you. I think one of the biggest problems we have is people stay in Washington across the board for way too long. But someone would say, can you actually make, I'm going to keep hitting that point, and I know you're going to say yes, but I mean, can you be, and I want more people in Congress who want to do this. If we had enough citizen legislators, I do think you're right? We could actually start changing. but can you fix California at the federal level, or can you fix South LA at the federal level?
I can absolutely fix South LA on a federal level, and we can railroad California on a federal level as well too. I think you just need somebody to stand up and do it. I think if we had a group of legislators from California in Congress, and we can get together and say, you know what, these things that's going on are not right, we can absolutely affect change. We'll take California.
You froze on us, Joe. So if you don't pop back up, there you go. You're back in.
So we'll be able to take California to the Supreme Court every single week so we can get the change we need.
We're being shadow banned, Joe. We just they just intervened and zapped us. So repeat that last thought because you kind of cut out.
We'll take California to court. We'll take them to the Supreme Court all day, every day. Mm-hmm.
I like it. Let's talk for a second about what's happening in California right now. I basically left LA. I couldn't deal with the fact that, that California refuses to. I get that we have a terrible virus and a pandemic. That's all real. But California's refusal to move, literally, and Gavin Newsom and Mayor Garcetti, and a lot of the Democratic Party, because it's become a politicized virus, blue and red, I believe is literally crippling California and destroying millions of people's lives because they're not being allowed to live, to work, to be productive, to have their kids in school, to have mental health. I mean, literally, it's forcing a mass exodus from California.
Yep, and I do blame Gavin Newsom. I mean, he takes his marching orders from Nancy Pelosi. We already know that. And it's like, for us, it should be, if it's good for the geese, it should be good for the gander. One of the biggest issues that I have right now is that the state of California refuses to take care of its businesses. It refuses to take care of its people. And so when we pay, the billions of dollars that we pay in taxes, when we have a shutdown, we should be on a regular basis getting, some type of stimulus check back from the taxes that we paid, as well as our businesses. They should be kept up until, they allow us to open back up, but they shut us down, continue to make us pay bills, not take care of the people. They take care of illegal immigrants on a regular basis. And these type of things is not fair at all.
What do you hear, Joe, when you're in the streets talking to people, when you're in South LA and talking to people? What do you hear? I mean, and I'm sure you hear some good, some bad, but just give me a flavor. Give me the positive and the negative. Be honest. Some people probably say you shouldn't be running against her or whatever, or maybe they don't. I don't know.
At first, people would tell me that I shouldn't be running because she's a black woman. Go find somebody else to run against. We got past that.
We need her in there.
Yeah, we got past that. Now people are telling me, well, at least be nice to her. And I'm like, I'm not going to be nice to a lady who left me homeless when I needed help getting my benefits. It's not going to happen. Not to a lady who is responsible for 44,000 people sleeping on the streets of LA. It's not going to happen. And a lot of people, look, you got to understand this, all right? Just because I'm telling the truth doesn't make me a mean person. That means I'm telling you the truth. So it's hard to believe it. It's hard to understand the truth when you've been brainwashed for so long, but the truth is the truth, whether you like it or not. But we have a lot of support, and we are definitely going to take this win in November. So to that point, telling the truth, one thing I notice about you, and just so everybody out there knows, I'm not old friends with Joe. I met him very recently. Joy, I think it was Joy Vila who came on my show, said you should have Joe on, and she connected us. We've talked for a few minutes on the phone. Joe, one of the things I notice about you is you are really unflinching. They'd say, you really don't seem to flinch at just sort of holding true to where you think things are. And I'm going to guess that's who you are as a person. I'm guessing you were like that when you were 15 years old and someone got in your face in the street. We used to bang it out in the streets, but I think it came from going to Iraq. When you're in the military, you go through so much. People don't understand. They think you have this cushy life, but you go through so much in the military, and it teaches you patience and resilience. And so a lot of times, because I study a lot, and because I study a person's character or their demeanor, it allows me to gauge how to interact with certain individuals. But at the end of the day, I know it's not because this person actually hates me. I know they either been brainwashed or they don't understand. And so trying to find a way to make somebody understand a point of view that's beneficial for them is my obligation. So no, I really don't care what people say. I
can see that. I like that. So couple last questions for you. I want people to know, and I want to know something something in your life growing up to this point, right? You're in your mid 30s.
Yeah, I'm about to be 35 next month.
Okay, congratulations. I'm almost that old. Uh, um, you're like something that happened to you that, and you know, people ask you to say something that defined you. I'm more interested in you sharing something that humanized you, like a real experience where you either almost crossed the line you couldn't cross back, or something happened, or you saw somebody, whatever it is, that was like, wow, that humanized Joe Collins. Because we all have them, but I don't think politicians ever talk about them until they're not running for office. You know, the president runs and gets out and doesn't, then you find out who they really were. It's like, oh, where was that guy?
Yeah. The biggest moment in my life, I would say, is 2008. I went to Iraq, Operation Iraqi Freedom. And then I found out, I was married at the time. I found that my wife had cheated on me while I was gone and got pregnant by somebody else.
Whoa.
When I got back from Iraq and we got off the plane, my team and I, you know, everybody had their family there and I didn't have nobody. I mean, like nobody was there. And that was the first time I was like, you know what? Regardless of anybody who's around you, the only person going to have your back is yourself. And then I had 3 friends commit suicide. One shot he shot his kids, and then he tried to shoot the wife, missed, and then he shot himself after the wife got away. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, like I have to look out for myself.
That's interesting. So, you know, I actually can relate to having had a lot of loss in my life. And my brother actually committed suicide a few years ago. And I've watched a lot of people die since my other brother died when I was a kid, but I never quite adopted them. And I've always resisted that I have to take care of myself, which you do. But I always was kind of like, you know, a belief in hoping that, you know, that we're not all alone in this. Right. And I don't think you're saying we're alone, but I think you're saying you have to have your own back.
Yeah, your mental health is the most important thing in this entire world. And if you allow somebody or a situation to damage your mental health, you will be lost for the rest of your life.
Joe, when you got off that plane and when you found out your wife had a baby with somebody else, were you, I mean, obviously heartbroken, were you angry? Were you mad? Were you like, F the world? I mean, you know, that's a moment, you know, and then you're alone as you walk off a plane after serving your country and you're like, oh.
Those are emotions that is hard to describe right now. You know, it's back in 2008. So looking back, I have to look at, you know, the type of person that I was back then, how I was living my life back then to be able to give you an accurate depiction of how I felt. I was really angry.
Yeah, I bet. Can you take some of that anger into Congress? I think you can in a positive way. Like, I think anger can be a powerful tool, like like for change, not like was angry at the world, but, you know, a sort of a like, do the right thing mentality.
You know what? I'm not 100% certain. I think that you have to embrace your anger, but don't forget the reason why you got into Congress. And if your reason is to affect positive change, you have to keep that on your mind. And with every decision that you're making, how can I affect change with this decision? How is this going to positively impact my community? How is this going to positively impact the United States? So I think that, you know, we absolutely have to look into that.
Right. I think what I'm saying before I let you go is I'm saying part of what I think is missing in Washington, there's plenty of division, there's plenty of conflict, there's plenty of partisan hatred, but there's not a lot of sort of, remember that old movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington? People might not remember it. He's like Jimmy Stewart Goes to Washington, and he basically like has a meltdown in the Senate, and he's like, dude, you guys are all corrupt. I mean, there's a certain amount of righteous indignation at the lack of these people willingness to actually care about their constituents, not just in LA, across the board. It's like about them and staying in office, both parties, more than it is about fixing America. And that makes me angry.
Well, when you put it like that, yes, we need a lot of that. We need a lot of that for the younger people that are getting into politics right now. All of what you just said right there, yes.
You're going to bring that, right?
I'm going to bring more than that. I'm going to bring the hammer.
I like it.
The hammer. Yeah.
Bring the hammer and a boxing glove. Joe, thank you so much. I know you got a thing you got to get to. So I'll give you the last word here before I get the last word, but I'll give you the first last word. No, I just want you to give up. We put up how people can get in touch with you. You know, yeah. I want to give you the 60 seconds to kind of like let people know if they have any doubts in their mind or any hesitation. You know, I'm going to say Maxine Waters lives in a $6 million mansion in Hancock Park, a really nice neighborhood. She doesn't live in the hood. Maybe 30 years ago, she cared about it. She's really just become a party tool to sort of hate on Trump and hate on conservatives. And to my mind, say black people are victims and, you know, we need more justice. We need justice, but I don't think her approach is going to get it. That's my take. Yours?
Yeah. I'll tell you like this, like it or not, we're winning this race. Continue to donate, continue to support, make phone calls for us, share everything we do with your friends and family, and let them know that we're going to need their support all the way up until November 3rd.
You got it. Hey, Joe, will you do, I know you can't produce them, but can you keep doing videos like that? And maybe you are. I have to check your socials, but just you being real you, raw you, in the jeans, in the t-shirt, you know, gloves off. I think people need to hear that. I think people want to hear that. They're like hungry to care about politics.
Yeah, I'll keep doing it. I'll do it. I promise.
I love it. Joe, good luck. I'll talk to you soon. Everybody, thanks for watching. I'm Rob Nelson. This is Rob Nelson Live.